The GIMP is a somewhat derogatory nickname given to an old John Broadwood piano that was heading to the tip. We rescued it, tortured it, and murdered it. But not before making some samples using our new experimental monolith system, with one major development: heat mapping. So this has been a real sterling effort by piano bookers to create this new heat-mapped template, which I think is really interesting. And to best demonstrate how this affects the process of recording, I'm just going to put these down. You'll see that instead of being straight lines up, they are actually curvy, and this is because down at the bottom we're just doing single round robins. We do a few more, going up to 4 in the center, and then as we get to the very top we just go back to 1 or 2 round robins there. And you can see we've actually created a pedal up and a pedal down. So we've got single FF, we've got our release triggers, we've got MF, PP, and then we've got pedal up and pedal downs in the middle there, and then again single FF. We've got so this I guess would be your pedal up section, release triggers for that, and then MF, PP. And the total running time now of this monolith, and I imagine this will be as detailed as we get, is 1.5 hours. We start at 1 hour there. So let's see how we got on at Castle Sound. So when loading these signals into RX to noise reduce, it really came up with some incredibly beautiful patterns. And as you can see there, there's our heat mapped shapes. So instead of going diagonally, they're more curvaceous. So what I'm going to do is going to create a group, and we go like that, and then editing like that. And then all we have to do is drag these cookie cutters up. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll go into the closest mic and edit the start point to that. So in this instance, you can see we're just a little bit behind, and I won't bother move that onto the 5. I'll then just move along to the next one, just meticulously cut each one, and the team has helped me do this, thankfully. And then simply at the end of the process, what I'll do is go like that and go to events and quantize, and then we will hopefully be bang on the bar. And then all I have to do is go through and do the tails, and then we just do these little microscopic fade in and a fade out of 3000 with a nice curve like that to give it a nice natural sound. Right, now I'm going to output these as monoliths, not as independent regions. If you recall, the whole point of monoliths is to create sample instruments from long files. And in the last film, linked above, we did that with about 8 different monoliths, different round robins, one for each group. I found that this was a very inelegant way of working, and Stephen Talamy came up with a way of actually being able to code the monolith system so we can use true monoliths, one file to rule them all.
So one of the challenges with this complex heat map is all of these things. If you're doing them by hand, going into Contact and creating all the groups and creating all the regions, it can be quite a lot of work and quite error prone. And I think we found that in some of the early prototypes of this, things were not quite lined up as we wanted them to be. So I thought, well, could we take this spreadsheet and automatically generate a Contact file? And that would allow us to have different generations of this heat map, have different variations. So if we want to have a simple version, a more fully fledged, and maybe different types of instruments, we could do those. So what Contact actually ships with now is a tool called Creator Tools. And you may not have installed it. It's available just to install alongside Contact. And what it does is it provides you a bunch of different tools for designing your instruments, but it also provides a programming language based on Lua, which is a common programming language. So you can actually interact with Contact and it can connect to the two. So I've got Creator Tools loaded here and I have Contact over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually load up a new fresh instrument, and you can see immediately it is connected to that instrument. So let's just quickly open it up, and you can see it's just got the one default group and nothing else. So what I did is I created a Lua script that effectively codifies the spreadsheet. So it's going to act on a particular file, and it's got various variables. Those were all in the spreadsheet, and then all sorts of mapping information about where we want the volume of the different layers to be in. We recorded the GIMP slightly differently to how we plan to do the final version of this, so a couple of overrides here. Then there's various rules in here in terms of how long each of the durations are going to be. So for different note values, you're going to get different lengths of bars, and similarly the number of round robins change. So if you look back in the spreadsheet, we find at different layers, different notes, we have different numbers of round robins and different durations. So that's all basically codified in this script. Let's go back to Creator Tools, and all I'm going to do here is hit play. And you can see that it's already planned out a whole bunch of new groups that it wants to use, and it's even spat out some quite useful messages here. It's basically spitting out the spreadsheet. It's showing this is the P layer, this is where it starts in terms of the samples, in terms of bars, and all the sample information is there as well. So all of the information that was in the spreadsheet is sort of printing that out to the screen. And what I've done is I've created 4 round robin groups, and then I'm going to lay these across those 4 groups. And if any particular sample is missing one of those, it will do a loop around and reuse samples, so that we can just have 4 simple groups that we can round robin around, as opposed to having lots of different variable sizes depending on how many actual recorded round robins we have. Now you'll see that contact has done nothing, and we've got this little arrow here. That means to push this configuration over to contact. So let's do that now. And you can see it is all there and loaded up. Let's do selected groups only. So you can see here we've now got all of the different groups. We've got all of the layers. So this is the velocity mapping that I was showing you before. So we've got the loud layer, the medium, and then the quiet layer. And you can see down here we've got all of the samples. If we zoom into this guy, we will see we've got all the in point and the out point correct. So this is really good. This is all layered out all the way across. We've got all the round robins. Now, what happens if I play this now? Well, we're going to get a little bit of a cacophony, because by default, all of those groups are triggering at once. So there's certain things that I can't set up through the scripting, but there isn't actually very much more I need to get us to a working contact instrument, and that's thanks to some clever scripting by Dave Hilowitz. He's got this piano book template that he's put together to help us build instruments, and within that he's got 2 important scripts. One of them is this voice triggering script, and this is effectively like the piano pedal script, and it manages all of the handling of the different groups, round robins, pedal up, pedal down, pedal noises. All of that piano scripting is all contained in here, so we don't actually need to use any of the contact scripts, which are generally not exactly what we would want to use in a piano. And then we also have this other script here, which was based on what Angus Roberts-Kerry provided to give us a nice look and feel. So I've got both of those scripts available as presets in my contact, Dave's Pedals brackets GIMP. And the only reason I've got the brackets GIMP is just because I've preset some of the variables here to represent which particular groups have got the notes with pedals, the notes without pedals, the release triggers, and so on. So now if we hit apply on that, we actually should find we're getting the nice round robins, we're getting the release triggers firing here. And if I put the pedal down, we've got the pedal noises, down, up, and the sustain notes when the pedal is down, and even the release triggers firing. So one script, and we've got pretty much most of this working. Now let's turn ourselves over to the UI. So again, I've got that as a preset, piano book UI. You'll notice that the UI is looking a bit not great yet. There's a couple of steps we need to do. First off, we need to create a resource container. And you can see it's picked up and found 3 resources in there. You'll see that we've got the nice round knobs available. We don't yet have the nice background, so let's go fix that very quickly. What we have to do is save the instrument to make that happen. So I'm going to save. Patch only, and now if we close that, open it again, and you can see we've got the lovely UI as well, and all of these wired up. Now the last part of this is to get all of our routing correct, because these knobs all control buses. So let's go back into the instrument, and you can see we've got a bus section. We're going to have 3 buses. I'm going to give them nice names. So notes, release triggers, pedals, and now what we're going to do is select all of the groups to do with notes. So that's these ones. And we are going to send them, instead of to the default output, send them to notes. And then release triggers to release triggers. And then pedals to pedals. And that's it. That's all we should need to do. And now we should be able to independently control the notes, the release triggers, and the pedals. And that's it. We now have a fully working contact template that we can also vary if we want to make different options of this. We can create this as a template contact instrument without any samples in it, with just a placeholder, and then you can switch in your own samples and change the UI about. So that's something that we can also put together. If you're interested in the Cody bit, then you can take a look on my GitHub page, which Christian will link down below, stephentalamy/monolith, and you've got all of the code that we were just looking at, the heat map, Lua, and these are the settings that are configuring it into Creator Tools.
Thanks, as always, Stephen, for your amazing contributions to Piano Book. Stephen has his own YouTube channel and has just launched a new fascinating series about how he created his latest film score for a fascinating new indie film. Subscribe to his channel, linked below. So what we've done is we've created a separate monolith for each microphone position, and David Hilowitz's amazing system doesn't yet have, hint, hint, Dave, have mic positions in it. And I have to say, I'm a massive fan of Dave's samples. His company is linked down below. He's a fantastic contributor to Piano Book, but also awesome YouTuber. So what we did is outputted 3 separate monoliths, as I said, one for each microphone, of a huge length. And how did it turn out? Well, gimpy. But we didn't stop there. In fact, we wanted to clean things up a bit, or not, with some flannels. So, the flannel piano. I had a sense that it was going to be magical, and it's not disappointed. Let's put a bit of splosh and delay on it. Now, something a lot of you pointed out is the monolith system really is a bit of a memory hog. So we thought we'd try the contact compression system. And in fact, we've managed to bring that with compressed samples down to roughly, I think, a third of the memory footprint, an experiment that we'll probably talk about in later episodes. So the GIMP available to download now in the links down below, and we'll be putting different versions of that up in future. And the best way to be notified when those new versions have gone up is to follow us on the Instagram account linked below, or indeed the Piano Book YouTube channel, which has weekly piano drops. If you subscribe to that channel, you'll be notified when new versions go up, alongside many of the submissions made by the Piano Book community.